So there's 4 main boxes on the 2020 screen that are always going to be there. Good spacing. So a lot of monitors for a number of years have shown average spacing, and I actually have that pulled up here. It's seed spacing over there on the right side. It says 7.3 right there. So that measurement is seeds divided by distance. So if I plant 300 seeds in 150 feet, I have an average spacing of 6 inches. Now, that doesn't take into account if they were every 6 inches, or if they were 5, then 7, then 6, then 6, then 4, then 8. Both of those could give me a 6-inch average. The good spacing box right here is telling you what percentage of seeds are closer than 4 inches, or what percentage of seeds is good spacing. So it's what percentage of seeds had at least 4 inches between it. So right here, 94.8% of my last few hundred seeds have been at least 4 inches apart. So, what's that?
Is that a constant 4 inches? Or can you change that?
So you can change it. It's defaulted at 4 inches, and you can change it, but I recommend leaving it at 4 because research that we've done has shown that when you get seeds closer to 4 inches, that's when an agronomic yield loss occurs. There's another number we'll talk about that is a statistical number of meter performance as opposed to an agronomic number. Alright, so here I've got 5.2% of my last few hundred seeds have been closer than 4 inches. Right, so I want a good spacing number as high as possible as well. Alright, so singulation is going to cost me about 2.5 bushels for every 1%. Spacing, 1% is going to cost me half a bushel, a quarter bushel, a tenth of a bushel. Alright, so a skip or a multiple is a much more costly error than having a seed 3 inches from the one beside it as opposed to 6. Okay, so singulation, you want to drive that as high as possible. Spacing you want as high as possible too, but if I had to pick one to suffer a little bit, it's going to be spacing, because my yield loss from poor spacing is much less than from poor singulation. Spacing could be the way the seeds release off the meter. If they're not releasing consistently. Could be, as Aaron said, the field is rough and my row units are bouncing, causing the seeds to ricochet in the seed tube and become closer together. It could be I've got a bearing going out on the hex shaft and it's causing some of the rows, the chains on there and then the meters to turn erratically. It could be I've got a stiff rusty link in a chain. It could be I've got residue in the seed tube. There's many things that can cause spacing inaccuracies, where singulation is merely almost always something going on in the meter. So for any of these 4 boxes, if I touch the top, I get a bar graph. So here I can see a population bar graph. I'm going to go hit the back button in the bottom right. And I'm going to touch the top of the singulation box. See bar graph here, multiples above the line, skips below. Touch on the top of the spacing box. I can see where spacing errors are occurring. If I touch on one of the bars, I get the row details. And you can see here what's going on in that row. Down here at the bottom, it's called the live seeds display. Every seed going past the sensor we classify as either good, and we make it green. Spacing error, or within 4 inches, we make it yellow. A double, we would have a red plant. A skip would be a circle with an X. So I haven't seen really any skips or doubles. If I want to change what row I'm looking at the details on the right side, there's an up and down button. I can touch those. Go to row 6. So here's singulation is very good. Well, there's a skip. Singulation is pretty good. Spacing is fairly poor. There's another skip. So what I would use this for is to look for patterns. So if I run a planner with finger meters, I've got 12 fingers per revolution. So if I see a skip come out from back there behind that closing system, if I see a skip and when it gets over to here, I see another skip. When it gets to here, another skip. When it gets to here, another skip. That's about every 12th seed. What do I have? Got a finger that's either broken, a spring that's broken. For some reason, one finger is not picking up a seed. I can see that a lot quicker than, well, I have 2% skips and 800 seeds per acre low on that row. So dive in here and you can see what's happening a little bit better. It's not always that obvious, but sometimes it will. Now I hit home, and that takes me back to our home screen.